With today's severe threat over, we look to Monday's first alert weather day for winter weather. We're on your side with the timing of the event and what we can expect.
And we talk about some of the damage left after strong winds roared through parts of Alabama.
Plus, as temperatures begin to drop throughout next week, we have information on the warming stations that'll be open.
WBRC Fox 6 News. First Alert Weather Extra starts now.
And welcome into First Alert Weather Extra. Meteorologist Lauren Linehan. Lauren, you know, on a day like this, a first alert, well, it was a first alert weather day. We have a threat for storms and we don't have warnings. I'm a happy camper.
Me too. And the key word is threat. You know, we always want you to be prepared, not scared. So I would rather you do all of those preps and it turned out nothing happened versus we have a situation where we're caught off guard and something awful happens.
Well, you look at today's setup, it was a lot like last year for the Selma tornado, which happened on this day 1 year ago. And of course, that day didn't pan out quite the same as we know. So good news there. We've gotten the storms. They've moved on through. We got that behind us. Now we're moving ahead to next week. The next big thing, and that's why we declared another first alert weather days for the cold coming on Monday and Tuesday of next week. And this is just not the typical, you know, lows in the upper 20s for us in Alabama. I mean, this is single digits and teens across the southeast region, and even the possibility that we could see some icy weather around here. Going to have to pay close attention to that forecast over the next couple of days. Let's get into what's happening. You're looking at AccuTrack right now. Notice the temperatures here. We still have 50s and upper 40s out there. Winds are coming at us out of the west direction. It's still breezy, and it's actually winds going to pick up again. We're starting to see those indicators of some gusty winds back to the west as colder air makes its way in here. And tomorrow morning, there's a chance we're going to see some 20s out there on the temperature map to start the day. So we do have a first alert for freezing temperatures to kick off the day. But tomorrow, the temperatures will rise above freezing. We'll have sunshine this weekend, above freezing temperatures Saturday and Sunday, but dry days and 2 good days to prepare for that extreme cold that we're talking about. And I think we could see a wintry mix starting over northwest Alabama by Monday morning. Could that reach our far northwest areas? I'm talking about Marion, Winston, Lamar counties. It's a question mark, but it could happen there. Maybe a little bit of wintry mix as early as during the day Monday. But for most of us, all the data is pointing to late Monday night into the morning on Tuesday, if we see anything. And let's talk about that. What could we see? Well, we could see possibly some freezing rain or wintry mix, maybe a little bit of snow to the north. There's already a winter storm watch that's went into effect across Mississippi. So you can see the concern is growing in here for some significant impacts from winter weather into the start of next week. But this is what the model data is telling us, and this is the GFS model. This is one of the global models, and it still shows that possibility for us, mostly a period where we could have a mixture of freezing rain or sleet. And just looking at these values here in the data, I'm not seeing numbers that really point to a major ice storm, but I'm seeing numbers that point to the possibility that early Tuesday, some of the elevated surfaces, bridges, overpasses, if we get this in here, even south of Birmingham, there could be some trouble spots and some travel disruptions. So that possibility is there. This would be in a Tuesday morning. I know this says 1 o'clock on Tuesday, but these are total accumulations. Again, this would start late on Monday, but notice how both models here, we're seeing the heaviest of the snow to the north. In fact, parts of Tennessee, we're talking over 8 inches of snow possible there in areas to the far north. So still the chance that we could see a little bit of wintry precipitation Monday night and into Tuesday morning. Of course, we're talking about, you know, travel impacts there, but also it's so important that we not only consider the travel impacts, but with all this cold coming in, winterization. And I was checking in with meteorologist Tania Michelle. And Tania, you've been in the storm tracker all day, starting out with the storms that moved across West Alabama earlier today, and just some good tips to pass along, you know, as we look ahead towards the possibility of a couple of days actually below freezing.
Yeah, listen, because next week's going to be so cold, you want to make sure that you are preparing as early as this weekend if you haven't done so already. Right now, we are in Birmingham. We're in Jefferson County. I can flip the camera here because it looks pretty clear out there. Right now, I'm looking at our dashboard. It's showing that current temperatures here in Birmingham are 56 degrees. That's not how things are going to look as we approach early next week. We're going to see temperatures below freezing Monday night into your Tuesday. So how can you best prepare? Well, number one, you want to make sure that you winterize your vehicle, whether that means making sure that your tires have enough air pressure in them, making sure that you have those winter tires on if you have any, and also keep an emergency kit in your vehicle. You also want to make sure that you have plenty of windshield wiper fluid in your car. Check your battery, check your engine, make sure you have plenty of oil, anything that you can do to best prepare so that you don't get stranded on a day where the roads could be more dangerous and more slippery. And because we can see those freezing temperatures into your Tuesday morning, early next week, as this Arctic blast moves through, you want to make sure that you just take it slow on the roads. Have patience with yourself and other drivers. And of course, make sure you check in for the local forecast just to see what those impacts are in the days ahead. Reporting live in the Storm Tracker in Birmingham, Tania Michelle, WBRC, Fox 6 News, on your side.
Thanks, Tania, and stay warm out there. Right now, you can scan and tap our First Alert Weather Day QR code to download our First Alert Weather app for more updates about what next week's weather threat holds. And thankfully, storms stayed below severe limits due to cooler air, but some parts of our area still saw a bit of damage. You can see trees falling on power lines. This happened on Tarpley Road in Mulga. And in Tuscaloosa, damage also reported after a tree blocked 2 roads in North Side. This comes after heavy rain and wind passed through the area earlier this afternoon. Those who live in the community say the tree falling was definitely a surprise.
It was definitely some strong winds. You can see that's not a small tree.
Just saturated the ground and pulled it right up, which is kind of a wet area right here anyhow, but it was definitely a surprise how big of a tree it was for sure.
Well, we're so glad they're okay. The tree has since been removed. And as we have been talking about here on Weather Extra this week, today marks 1 year since a long track tornado cut a path of destruction across several counties in South Alabama. Downtown Selma took a direct hit, flattening homes and businesses. Congresswoman Terry Sewell is reflecting on the damage and recovery efforts to her hometown and her 7th congressional district. She says in total, all 4 counties received $22 million in FEMA and SBA assistance.
A year later, we are 95% done with the cleanup effort. We really are entering the recovery and rebuild stage. In order to do that, we're going to need continued support, both local, state, and federal.
Sewell also pledging to keep working to help Selma and other counties to recover. And hey, be sure to join the First Alert Weather Team tomorrow as we join the Birmingham office of the National Weather Service in Selma to mark the 1-year anniversary and talk about storm preparedness. And they'll have the opportunity to meet people with the community and share their stories. Well, back here at home, the city of Birmingham is opening shelters for folks who need a warm place to stay over the next week. Starting tonight, the Jimmy Hale Mission will open as a shelter each night from 6 p.m. until 7 a.m. through Sunday. On Monday, the BJCC will open as a 24-hour warming shelter through Thursday morning. The city will make updates if the weather changes. You can find all of this information right now on the WBRC News app and WBRC.com. And across the nation, as we prepare for an Arctic blast, also here at home, the Midwest is in for a major winter storm with possible blizzard conditions across places up north. Fox Weather's Robert Ray has more.
The third major storm of the week is taking shape as it moves through the central plains and up into the Midwest. The whole weekend is looking to be, well, somewhat salvageable, except for the Arctic blast that follows behind.
I think people get used to the fact that we get missed sometimes because of the warm lake water, because of the storm track, so they don't take it as seriously. But I do know Chicago very well. We adapt quickly.
Winter weather alerts are in effect from Nebraska to the Great Lakes, with another foot of snow set to fall. Blizzard conditions are expected to develop Friday as wind gusts 40 to 50 miles per hour for hours. Chicago and Milwaukee may find themselves in the bullseye, with blizzard conditions for the first time in years. And that Arctic air is on the move. In Chicago, highs will struggle to reach double digits on Sunday.
So when the snow starts coming down, people will take note, and then they'll stay home most likely and be safe and maybe order DoorDash or something inside.
Through next week, over 200 million people will experience a temperature plunge nearly 30 to 50 degrees below average. Wind chills across the plains, well, they're going to dip 30 degrees below zero. Dallas won't see a high temperature lift out of the 20s. And come Monday, this cold makes it to the Northeast. Texas power grid operator ERCOT has issued a weather watch for multiple days next week.
Some in the far south and kind of along the coast that are not going to get as cold as kind of those in the interior and the northern parts of the state. And so that'll help out demand for the entire state.
Now the storm is expected to move into Chicago and Milwaukee on Friday. We could see snow rates of 1 inch an hour. In Chicago, Robert Ray, Fox Weather.
And in 30 seconds, we'll break down in that weather lowdown the different types of precipitation and what that can mean for our winter weather setup this upcoming week. We'll be right back.
And welcome back into First Alert Weather Extra. Up next, the frigid air that we've been telling you about that's moving our way. Want to show you this is next Wednesday morning forecast wind chills. Look at the negative values, single digits across Alabama. So not only are we talking about freezing temperatures, plan for single digit wind chills across our area next week. I want to show you these temperatures here over the next several days. And this weekend, we're going to have lows at night in the freezing range, but Monday, once we drop below freezing, Monday night, we'll stay below freezing throughout Tuesday. During the day, we won't rise above freezing. Wednesday morning, though, these are forecast lows. You can see down to 13 degrees. Thursday, we have highs in the mid-30s, but I still think there's some areas to the far north where still we won't rise above the freezing point. But it finally looks like we'll see a little bit of an improvement in temperatures by Friday because we'll have some rain coming back. But notice this, another surge of frigid air on the way for that following weekend there. Lows back into the teens. So a period of very cold weather on the way, and that's of course bringing some challenges with forecasting the types of wintry precipitation we could see across Alabama. Here's Lauren to explain.
Hey Wes, yeah, it can get really complicated when it comes to winter weather forecasting. We'd love to give you that first alert, but we'll be honest, it's a complicated forecast, even with seasoned scientists like you have here on the First Alert weather team. So let's break it down. You've got 4 precip types, right? And so one that we know all too well here in central Alabama is just plain old rain. So sometimes, believe it or not, rain can start off in the cloud as snow, but the layer of air it falls in all the way down from the cloud to the ground, temperatures are above freezing. So even if it starts off as a snowflake in the cloud, it's going to immediately melt. And so once it gets down to the surface, it's going to be falling to the surface as rain, just plain old rain. However, we have to look at the different profiles in the atmosphere. You're looking through the whole column of air, and you have to pay attention to the temperature profiles of the atmosphere. So when we have something like freezing rain, which isn't out of the question on Monday into Tuesday, you still have a decent warm layer in the atmosphere. Now, you have a situation where the clouds our temperatures are at freezing, so you can have something falling as snow initially, but it goes through a very large warm layer and melts. The thing is, though, at the surface, temperatures are at or below freezing. So that rain, as it falls to the ground, the minute it hits the ground, it freezes on contact. It can make a pretty scene with it looking like a glaze over trees. Unfortunately, makes for awful travel weather. So we're hoping we don't get any freezing rain next week, but not a guarantee. Now, when we do have sleet in the forecast, there's still a warm layer, but you'll notice it's a lot smaller. So sleet has more cold air in the atmosphere. You've got that colder air closer to the cloud, and then you've got a shallow warm layer where that snowflake can partially melt. And then as it gets closer to the surface, it begins to refreeze because it goes into a layer closer to the surface where temperatures are at or below freezing. And then, this is the one we love if it doesn't cause any problems, because it's real pretty. We don't get this a lot in Alabama, snow. That is when the entire column of air from the cloud down to the surface is below freezing. And that's when we get a little winter wonderland. Here's the problem with next week. We're forecasting there's going to be a layer of warm air. The question is it going to be a large layer of warm air and stuff falls as freezing rain? Or could it be a shallow layer and we see sleet? Or could that warm layer get on out of here and it's just cold and we see snow? Lots of uncertainties, but now you understand why it's so complicated to do winter weather forecasting.
It's always tricky, especially around here, Lauren, but one thing's for certain next week. We are going to have the cold making its way in across west, central, and east Alabama. That's why we've declared first alert weather days for that frigid air that's going to be moving in. So make sure you take advantage this weekend of the nicer days to make sure the plumbing's properly winterized. You have the faucet covers on, because next week we're talking multiple days where the temperatures could actually be below that critical freezing mark. But coming back, we're going to talk a lot more about the extended forecast and when we could see some of that wintry precipitation. We're going to break down what we know now in First Alert Weather Extra. Stay with us. Welcome back into First Alert Weather Extra. What a day out there. Storms moving through earlier today. You can see here on First Alert AccuTrack at this time that temperatures are starting to take a tumble into the 40s in East Alabama, 57 in Tuscaloosa. I want to switch over, just let you see once again that line. You can see how quickly it moved across the state, and all that precipitation now, it is out of here. But even though we did see those storms move in, that instability off to the south didn't quite make it in here. Temperatures stayed in the 50s, so that was the one good thing today. And a lot of wind shear with this system. That's one of the reasons why it was so windy. But you can see back to the west as we loop things along. You can see a little ribbon of clouds back in here. That's the leading edge of some of that frigid air that's going to be making its way in. I do think tonight we're going to have temperatures in the 20s, so plan for that. Freezing conditions out the door early tomorrow morning. Let's head over to the forecast lows tomorrow out the door. Could see readings down into the 20s as far south as Greensboro and Clanton. So the entire area, it looks like freezing early in the day. And the rest of the weekend, at least the daytime hours, we'll see those temperatures above freezing. Dry for our Saturday. We'll have some sunshine to help us out with comfort levels. West-southwest wind 5 to 10, a high near 47. We'll start out in the 20s again on Sunday. Frost, freezing temperatures early. We will have more clouds moving in by Sunday afternoon, and we're going to be watching what happens to the west. We could actually see a little bit of a wintry mix. Our far northwest couple of counties, it looks like maybe during the day Monday. I think for most of us, we really won't see any wintry precipitation impacts, but there's going to be a window Monday night through Tuesday morning when we could see some of that wintry precipitation setting up, and that would lead to possibly some travel impacts there early Tuesday morning. There's a winter storm watch now for Mississippi just over the state line, and we'll probably see some Alabama counties included in a winter storm watch here over the next couple of days this weekend, but that's because we're already seeing indications to the north. The model's really starting to lock in on the possibility of some heavier snowfall totals across far north Alabama and into parts of Tennessee by Monday, starting to see that snow developing. But notice for us, really until we get into Monday night and Tuesday, that's when we could see some of this moisture reach us. And if that happens, it will be cold enough to support, as Lauren was noting, the possibility of the other types of wintry precipitation, freezing rain, or sleet, and some of our new high-resolution data coming in tends to agree that this could be more of a wintry mix. And I'm not seeing the kind of levels that would lead to an ice storm at this point, but I do see the kind of levels that could lead to maybe a freezing rain advisory or some travel trouble spots perhaps in early on Tuesday, just based on what we see right now. So giving you that first alert for the possibility of some wintry precipitation Monday night and into Tuesday, but again, very cold conditions. Notice Monday night we dropped to 24. We stay below freezing throughout the day Tuesday, 13 degrees Tuesday night, and then 35 degrees there. That's it for a high temperature on Wednesday. But that's one surge of frigid air on the way. But Lauren, I know that first alert weather calendar, I see Arctic cold, not just for early next week, but also in the long range.
I've got an idea, Wes.
Yeah.
Let's throw January away. Let's just clean our hands of it.
I mean, you know, you go from you can't get a drop of rain, drought conditions around here, things very calm, and then all of a sudden we've had 3 first alert weather days.
Right. We didn't know how good we had it in the drought, honestly, because my goodness, El Nino is giving us an active pattern for January, and that's what we're seeing here. That first alert weather day next Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday is just going to be really cold. You know what I like to call it? Stupid cold. It's just going to be stupid cold on Wednesday with teens possible, wind chills possible in the single digits. And then we're tracking another system possibly next Friday that could have some moisture in it. But hey, maybe after we get past that, we still have some questions about whether there could be any type of wintry mix with that. We're going to get possibly another Arctic blast by next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the 20th and the 21st, and then possibly the week after that, that Wednesday, January 24th, maybe the possibility of seeing some, not necessarily winter weather, but some more rain in the forecast. But here it is, showing that 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, January 20th through 26th, still showing below average temperatures here in central Alabama. So next week and into next weekend, definitely going to be mighty cold. I think we should eventually see temperatures moderate a little bit that following week of January, but here we are January 18th through 27th as far as the highs. Highs abnormally cold as we go into next week, but then moderating a bit as we get into that following week of January. But as far as precipitation, yep, El Nino says we could still be seeing above average precipitation here across central Alabama. So still a very active cold pattern in the works and possibly another Arctic blast next week. Lot to unpack here, but as we prepare for the possibility for winter mischief at the beginning of next week, let's take a look back on a heavy snow event that occurred 13 years ago this week. Do you remember this? This event happened as a result of a low pressure system forming over the Gulf of Mexico near the Texas coast. And when that happened, it moved toward the Florida Panhandle. By daybreak on January 10th, areas north of I-20 were reporting snow totals up to 14 inches, with the heaviest band near the Alabama-Tennessee border. Ice totals reached as high as half an inch in places south of I-20. So hopefully we don't repeat that. Coming up on Weather Extra, we'll have a final look at that forecast after the break.
Well, it looks like next week, of course, Lauren, we're watching for that setup for the possibility of maybe some wintry precipitation. Still looks like Monday night mostly if we see anything.
Yeah, Wes, and you know, we keep being encouraged by folks like Matt and Tania. Don't forget to winterize your home. Make sure your cars are ready for this just in case, because winter weather can always get a little dicey.
Certainly, the deep freeze next week. JP's actually coming back tonight with an update starting at 9 o'clock. We'll have you right here with the latest information right here on WBRC Fox 6 News. Stay with us.